further ado, I'm going to introduce both of our speakers tonight and then let them take the stage. Okay, first, Ross Lilley is the Executive Director of Access Sports America. Since 1983, he has taught and adapted high challenge sports. He's also an ordained minister who has dedicated his time to creating spaces and activities to overcome disparity and discrimination, particularly for those facing disabilities. He was the first to adapt the sport of windsurfing in all of the United States to accommodate those with physical limitations. He also works to create training regimens to accommodate disabilities and to inspire athletes of all levels to achieve their highest function and fitness. In addition, Ross is a graduate from New York University, where he received a BA in economics, and he has also received an MDiv from Andover Newton Theological School. He has twice received the Boston Celtics Heroes Among Us Award, the Massachusetts Governor's Committee on Physical Fitness and Sports, the Neighborhood Superstar Award, and numerous other awards. And that's a brief introduction.
In fifth grade, I once ran a running race in 5th grade once too.
And then we have Nate Berry, who is the Program Director of Access Sport America since 2008, but he's been with Access since 2002. He has designed and implemented programs and training regimens at all of the sites, and he constantly urges athletes to reach their higher function. His responsibilities are quite extensive, yet some of his duties include overseeing programs at Spalding Rehabilitation Hospital, Camp Harborview, Massachusetts Hospital School, Boston Public Schools, and the YMCA. He is a graduate of St. Michael's College, and he is also a National Council on Strength and Fitness certified personal trainer. And on a personal level, I've been able to work with both Ross and Nate with Access throughout all of my high school experience, and they have inspired me throughout since I've known them. So I am so excited that they are here to speak with us today. Without further ado.
So when we finally want to pay Ariel to work, she can't work. Ariel, it would be kind of, can we bounce off of you during this?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay. That'd be very helpful, because I don't want to go astray. And this is a Best Buddies group, is that right?
Yes.
And so everybody in the group, you're in all sorts of fields, and some may be going in OTPT, some may be going exercise phys, but other people might be going into psych or English or anything, right?
Yes.
And like I was an economics major undergraduate, and it didn't do anything for me. And Nate was, what was it?
Spanish and business, and here we are.
So these are our credentials. So I guess we could talk about adaptive sports in general, and show you some of what we do and what other people do in programs, and we can probably start by talking about our philosophy, if that would be good, right? So I guess you would say, without trying to stoop low or to assume that we know more than a person with a disability, we put it out there that we have these sports that can inspire people to see themselves as athletes, or their families to see themselves as athletes. And we work with people who have, we think, lifelong disabilities mostly. And the sports that we specialize in are sort of out of the box, unusual sports. They range from windsurfing. It'd be neat. I don't know if we could ever tell, but I assume maybe one person might know what windsurfing is besides Ariel, but we'll show you some pictures of it. But we started with windsurfing, and then we go from windsurfing to stand-up paddling, which I guess about 70% of you have done stand-up paddling and surfing, and Hawaiian outrigger canoeing. We'll show pictures of that too, to standard sports, to traditional sports, team sports like football and soccer, and in it all, we pursue what Nate would call our perfect game, where everybody is vital to, if it's a traditional sports, everybody is vital to their team's success, vital to their team, and challenged to their utmost level. And so we can show some of that in a minute. Nate, what would you add to that?
I thought a kind of fun story was how Ariel got her start stand-up paddling with us. I think I was chasing one of our athletes across the lake or the pond, and she'd never been on a board before, but she hopped right in. She was always game, and I kind of screamed over my shoulder, "You'll figure it out. Good luck." And she eventually caught up and has been an integral part of the team ever since. So I think, to speak to Ross's point, holding the bar higher than people would normally expect is a huge key to what we do. And then getting people to see themselves as athletes. So you've had people who've been told no their entire lives, or that they can't do things for however long. And then we're choosing sports that are so unique that people have little to no expectations going into them. And we can make them successful really quickly at these cool and unique sports. And then they start to feel like an athlete again. And that the power that has is truly overwhelming. So
what maybe we can do, Nate, is I can show you, we can work on you can show something about a PowerPoint, and then maybe we can show a little bit of video. Okay, Ariel, can we bounce this off you? How are we doing?
Doing great.
It's like God speaking. I need to screen share, so I think you need to give me some power, us some power.
I think you should be able to do it now.
Okay.
Ariel, you were a freshman when you started with us, a freshman in high school, correct?
I was an 8th grader, yeah.
Wow.
What? Is that right? Had we known. Okay, so I'm going to size this here and go this way. Okay, so everybody just sees the PowerPoint page. Is that right, Ariel?
Yep.
Okay, so here's our mission statement, and let me see. So when life is good, we probably reach about 2,000 people a year, and these are, and we've done programs actually with Best Buddies before. We had Best Buddies do a soccer training program with us a long time ago. But as we said, we're trying to get people to see themselves as compelling athletes, and our partnerships include the Kayak School, the Flutie Foundation, big win with the Flutie Foundation for almost 20 years. Camp Harborview, which is a camp for inner city junior high folks, but we have a program in Boston Public Schools at about 6 high schools for kids with disabilities in high school that we integrate into that camp. And our estimate is that about 70% of the people at that camp are on IEPs or educational plans, and that when they have these sessions of 400 people at a time, and we suspect that a good many of them are people who have dealt with living with disability, and it's a good integrated environment. And then stuff with the Perkins School for the Blind, Boston Public Schools, and we use the DCR. We use their properties for a lot of our water sports. And Nate has done a camp with us in Guatemala, but most of our programs from Massachusetts and range to Florida, and in Vermont. We do some things in California as well, and actually in Hawaii. It's too bad we can't see people. We get a raise of hands. So here's our sports. I assume people have done all these sports, or many of these sports. Adaptive cycling, I didn't mention before. I'll show you a skateboard we developed, and we do tennis, soccer, we do football and basketball, and we have partnerships with the Celtics and the Bruins and the Patriots. So people come out to some of our clinics. It's kind of nice to show our folks that they are important and they deserve the best attention of the best teams in town. So here's a place that this is a place in Waltham. It's a 30-foot container where we have everything in the world. We have windsurfer stand-up paddle boards, a couple of Hawaiian Outrigger canoes, and about 20 bikes in this adaptive cycles. And out of that, see, here's what this is what can come out of that container. So I just thought that'd be exciting to show. And then our sites around, we work with a lot of partnerships, and people come to us bringing programs to us. And here, this is windsurfing, and this is usually it's done with one person on a board and one sail, but we have ways to adapt the sport so you can have 2 people on it, a trainer, instructor, and another person who's seated, and other people. and this is a technique that Ariel knows. And that's a site where Ariel has worked as well. It's the Pappas Rehabilitation Hospital on the bottom right. And that's a program we used to have with the Spalding Rehabilitation Hospital. And then here's some more windsurfing. And the range of people working here is this is people on the autism spectrum. This is a person who had a head injury in the middle. And then this is someone who grew up with cerebral palsy. And it'd be good actually at the end of this if we could open a question so we can get a gauge of what people know and don't know. So I don't want to be assuming too little or too much, but here's some other techniques we have to teach windsurfing. And because windsurfing is such a hard sport to teach, you're balancing on the board, you have to learn the dynamics of working with a sail. We have lots of techniques to make it work. And here's one where we're using a tether, and we have dozens of techniques from over 25 years of doing this. Here's a Hawaiian outrigger canoes. This is a regatta we have in Boston. How am I doing, Nate? Am I boring you? You're okay?
No, I did good. I think I would like to talk a little bit more about our perfect game concept and how the outrigger canoes are a great proving ground for that.
Okay, then when I get through these and then how we can do that. How's that?
Sure.
Okay, so here's the outrigger canoes, and as Nate said, this is in Waltham, a site there. There's a fake alligator there, and when you're in the canoe, as Nate said, you can't distinguish necessarily who has a disability and who's not, and everybody is on that team. And here's a canoe adaptation we made for a single outrigger canoe. And here's some stand-up paddling and some adaptations we have for that, right? And using a windsurf board, using a rack on a board, and then someone on their own. And then here's Nate and I testing one of our devices here. Here's a stand-up paddle board it can hold up to 8 people, which is just terrific, and will play a huge part of what we do this summer, because you can have, we think, distancing on this board, and put just 1 or 2 on it. And then here's some of our cycling, and a beautiful path there. Here's the adaptation we made that is for skateboarding. This is you sit on a skateboard and use a stand-up paddle made for land. So there's some of what we do, right? Is there a way to get questions or see if we're on track with people and see what people are interested in? Ariel?
Yeah, and does anyone have any questions? You can raise your hand in the chat.
I think I saw an Evan with his hand up. Oh, yeah, there he goes.
I do have a quick question. Have you guys, first of all, I love what you guys are doing. It's awesome.
Can we see you, Kev? Can we see you?
You
There
me?
you are. Oh, hi, Evan.
I love what you guys are doing. It's awesome. I wish my town, I live in Connecticut, and I wish my town had something like this. But have you guys, I know a lot of ski mountains have adaptive ski programs, ski and snowboard programs. And I think that's also transitioned into like sledding and things like that. Have you guys gone into winter sports at all? Have you thought about that? Yeah, like how have you guys transitioned between the seasons? Because a lot of these are awesome summer activities, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, I'll show you some of the winter ones too in a minute. Nate, you want to go for that one?
Sure. Yeah, we there's tons of awesome ski mountains around that are really good at what they do. So we've kind of left that up to the experts there, and we've used our summer sports as a carrot on the end of the string to get people to be inspired to train for a higher level of function. So we have a gait training program where we've developed a machine over the past 8 or even 10 years to help people walk with perfect form. So somebody who has gait issues, they might have hemiparesis, and swing a leg through instead of bending their knee. So the gait trainer provides perfect length of stride, hip, knee flexion, extension, and a good speed as well. And then we also used to have a program at the YMCA, but we do other training and sort of just your traditional gym exercises as to coincide with our gait training program. And then we do soccer and tennis as well, which are both indoors. And we're trying to use the summer sports to get people excited about being athletes again. And then hopefully the kind of tougher winter months when you're stuck inside, you still have a drive to train and move forward, so to speak.
You see what I'm showing, Nate?
I saw Harvard for a second there. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah. So that's our soccer program in Boston Public Schools. This is a kind of a different beast. You have a ratio of 30 athletes to 2 to 3, maybe 4 trainers. So you're trying to get athletes who aren't used to working out or told they can't do things to know what it's like to work out with an elevated heart rate. So say in a 45-minute session, we're hoping for 20 to 25 minutes of an elevated heart rate. In our
keep going.
in our gait training program, you're focused more on function and you want perfect form all the time. So you're not going to do any contraindicative exercises or exercises that would contribute to a bad or a negative gait, I guess.
Yeah, Evan, if you were gonna, if you're gonna start any kind of adaptive program, I know that Best Buddies seems to have a lot of people who are on the autism spectrum. But if you're gonna start a program, like a ski program is great, and then you would, and for a summer component, you might put in a lot of kayaking and stand-up paddling. Those are pretty inexpensive and easy ways to get into it. A lot of programs that are in the winter have adaptive cycling, kayaking, sometimes sailing in the summer. But I think the Nate said what we do is try to hold the bar higher, right, and try to get people to reach beyond themselves. What we just showed, I can show them also our in-place program. I'm going to show you quickly what Nate was talking about with our gait training program. This is really cool. So
before you share your screen, let's see because we can see people now, let's see if anybody's heard of the Locomat or experienced anything like this. I don't know. Has anybody heard of the Locomat or these the auto ambulator, these gait training machines? No? Okay. So the Locomat is a $400,000 machine, and you have 2 of them in the Northeast. And the way health insurance works, people get prescribed 6 sessions once a week for 6 weeks for basically a half hour at a time. And there's just, well, they're great machines, they're so expensive and there's not enough carryover. So we've designed this machine for about $5,000 or maybe $10,000, and we're trying to make it the gait training accessible to the masses.
And here's some of the rationale behind what we do. We found that, right, Nate, that of all the training we've done with people with disabilities across the board, people with spinal cord injuries, people with cerebral palsy, people with stroke, more times than not, just being able to be out of a chair and walking, even if they're suspended in a harness, seems to have the greatest benefit. This is their choice. Some people love being in a chair, and that's freedom. But there's other people who work with us who like to be up, and the benefits of weight bearing and walking, even if there's no improvement to their gait, is great from a health standpoint. But most people who do our device in our program improve. So here I'll show you. I think this is what the device looks like, right? And then I hope I have the video going on this thing. And here's it. And this is our gym, and at the Cotting School, which we haven't been able to access for a year. But what it does is, see, it gives you a perfect length of stride, and it's a device that should cost like under $5,000 when manufactured, and give people enough access to really train as much as they need to. You need to do it 2 to 3 times a week, and you need to do it long term.
Yeah, when we first started the project, we figured it would there would be sort of a graduation process where you'd go for 8 or 12 weeks and people would graduate and move on. But we've since discovered that it's like anybody going to the gym, you need to go 3 to 5 days a week, kind of consistently to have that good carryover.
Does this excite anybody? Anybody want to comment, say anything?
Let's see, Chris, what drew both of you to this type of work? Go ahead, Russ.
Oh, the money. No, it's certainly not the money for either of us. But when I was a minister, my belief was that everything, not just good religion, but everything in life was inclusive. And if everybody couldn't come for the ride, then maybe it wasn't worth taking the ride. So I windsurfed, and that was at odds with my belief about being inclusive because it was a very exclusive kind of sport. And so I started working on ways for anybody that I would see on the beach to go windsurf, and was sort of obnoxious and say, you look like you have a disability, want to go windsurf. And then my son, that giant painting, that's my son, when he was born with cerebral palsy and spastic quadriplegia or tetraplegia, he became kind of our test pilot. And that was him in the gate trainer, in which I just showed you. He was one of the people in it. So what we discovered with him kind of goes across the board, that you get people in the sports that excite something in them that makes them want to train for higher function, and then you use that to do training for higher function. And the sports to us aren't so important. If someone wants to go to the Paralympics or the Olympics with one of our sports, good to them. But otherwise, we want to train the other folks, the people who want to see themselves as athletes and use that as a springboard to training for something more. So it all started with being inclusive, and then it kept going from this to this training thing. Nate, how about you?
Well, I've known Ross and his son Josh since I was in the 3rd grade, and Josh is a great friend of mine. He was a groomsman in my wedding. I don't know if he was the springboard or the inspiration, but I guess the to be selfish, the sports had a big aspect of it too, where I always loved sports, but I wasn't going to go anywhere crazy with that. So I now sort of get to do sports for a living on a daily basis, and the community that comes along with it is incredible as well. So I get just as much out of it as all of our participants or athletes do as well.
Nate, I was Nate's minister, and all he can remember is I told a bad joke, an inappropriate joke from the pulpit. So, oh, that was good, Chris. We did good by that.
I have a question as well. I was wondering how you grew your organization and how you got the word out and people more involved as you were starting and growing.
Yeah, it was partnerships that if you have to attract people one at a time, and some of the problems with the pandemic is we can't have groups or organizations come to us, and we're doing people one at a time. But if you have partnerships, that helps you grow really well and nicely. And so, our partners have been like Spalding Rehab Hospital. We just put our program there, and then they had an automatic base of people that would come to us, and those people would want to follow us to other things. The Flutie Foundation, the same. So it's all partnerships, and for us, we're lucky that what we learned in windsurfing translated into other sports and into training protocols and how we see sports. It's not just enough to, you don't want to just put a sport out there and say good job. You want people to succeed in it, have a meaningful experience, and truly be involved and have control in what they're doing. So that and for us also, it's sustained physical activity. So that kind of drives everything we do. Nate, were you going to say anything?
No, that sounds about right. The partnerships are the big key, and then we're really good at not making a profit.
Well,
But-
thank you so much.
Well, we should make a comment. Here's another one, just a little philosophical thing. We had one of the kids in our program went to Wellesley High School after he went to the Cotting School and then went to Wellesley High School, and he was featured on ESPN because they put him in a football game. He had cerebral palsy. He walked with a noticeable gait issue, and so they put him in for a play, and then they kind of eased him out to the sideline, and we thought they should have tackled him. I mean, they should have given him. They shouldn't have been jerks about it on the other team. I mean, but don't coddle someone else either. The greatest compliment sometimes is for people to show the respect of treating him like an athlete, and let him go for a while and tackle him as in what he deserves. And there's dignity in failure is one of our things. There's dignity in falling and being coddled and put, there's all these videos you see of people playing baseball and some guy gets a hit and then everybody falls all over themselves and the kid gets a home run, right? And the ball went about 5 feet. You know, sometimes we don't want to be jerks about it, but sometimes you got to raise the bar a little higher and say to that guy, you got to hit it farther next time. Let's work on a way to get it farther and train for stuff. So just putting people out who never train into sports is not as compelling to us as people who train and they see some fruits from that. Even if they don't, the training itself and putting something into it makes them a more compelling athlete. Does that make sense? Or does it makes me sound like a hard ass, doesn't it?
It makes sense.
Okay, I mean, and all that being said, we're also pretty soft. I mean, we never, I don't think anybody's ever failed and we said tough or, you know, right, Nate?
But you're right. It goes back to our sort of perfect game scenario too. Whereas if you take a traditional sport such as soccer or basketball, you're not necessarily always looking to just put the ball in the hoop or kick the ball in the goal. You're looking for other things as well. Focus more on defense for some people, or passing for others, or whatever that attribute might be that lends itself to this particular athlete. And you give as much credit to the defensive play or the great assist as you would to the goal. And if you can have everybody involved in the game, that's a huge key. But it doesn't always boil down to just X's and O's of scoring.
I'm going to show you a little bit about this train in place program that Nate referred to. Okay, here we go.
This is what we've been doing for the past year plus since the pandemic started.
You can see this okay?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so what we do is we put out these 12-minute, well, they're 20-minute, 25-minute workouts with a core workout that's pretty much the same each time, followed by 12 minutes of high intensity training. And the key to it is the 6 panel representing what we think are most abilities, ranging from a power chair to a push chair to someone stand with assistance to someone who stands alone to someone who walks. See, we're showing you this here. And then you choose what you want for each exercise. And, you know, the red is the runner. And here's the core workout. And then there's 5 of us. This is Hannah. She's in Hawaii. This is Kyle, who's about to go to Oregon. We got Hannah in Hawaii, and we have another trainer in Puerto Rico. And then we have these schools where we are live talking to people over this recorded workout, right? And then let me see what else we have. So it's and then we have a nice, nice little cool down. But we, I think that's kind of cool and innovative, and it's really been effective in training people this year. A big one is, I guess with Best Buddies, you're not so interested in proper training technique and things like that. But there are things that there's certain truisms that we observe all the time. One is that if you're, like if you're doing kayaking, if there's a person with a physical disability, oftentimes they have high tone and they might go an extension like this where their body likes to straighten out. And so if you put someone like that in a kayak where they're long sitting and their feet are out in front of them like this, it makes you really, your posterior chain, the back of you, gets really tight. And so it wants to pull your hips down. And as your hips want to pull down because you're so tight, then you start rolling your shoulders rounding forward like this, and it's terrible form. And when you're in that kind of extension and there's that much tension in your body, it's hard to be really controlled with your movements. And so one of the reasons we like Hawaiian outrigger canoeing is because you sit at 90, 90, 90. Your feet and your knees and your hips are all at 90 degrees or better, and that takes tone out of your system, and you have more control when you're paddling or doing whatever you're doing. It's the same for windsurfing. If you can sit in a chair where you're at 90 degrees, and if you wear braces that keep your feet into dorsiflexion, a neutral position, that breaks extensor patterns and gives you more control. The other truism is that more times than not, our people have hip issues. They have a hard time doing hip abduction, getting their legs to go out to the side and create a stable base when they're walking, and their hips collapse because their gluteus medius and their abductors aren't strong. And we work a lot on that. It's a Trendelenburg gait issue is the term for what we work on. And we know a lot about a couple things, and we rely on PTs and OTs to direct us. But these are a lot of things we work on. We also work on with our gait training is getting people in a hip and knee flexion, and that when people walk, you've all seen this, when people walk and they have strokes, they tend to go like this with one leg because they can't bend their knees and their hips, and our device forces them to do that. Okay, sorry, did I bore everybody to tears with that, Ariel?
No, I think Alex has a question.
Hi, thank you. So I was really I'm really enjoying how your description of like physical activities and sports could be more inclusive, but I was wondering, I grew up playing like baseball and soccer and like youth, like community, like youth leagues and stuff. And I was wondering if you guys had ideas about how like the average like baseball league or soccer league could be more inclusive to people of all abilities.
That's a great question. It's a barrier we're constantly trying to sort of break through. So we've worked with a soccer club called the FC Stars of Massachusetts for probably about a decade plus now, and we've talked for a long time about integrating their games. But when you get to that certain higher level and you try and change up the rules a little bit and make things different from the norm for what people are used to seeing, they get a little afraid. So we've had great tournaments, we've had great one individual games, one-off games, but we haven't had the great breakthrough of starting a sort of formal league, so to speak, where you would have our perfect vision would have the highest level athlete on the same field as a novice or somebody with some different challenges that make the game significantly harder for them. So we're always thinking about it, but I don't have anything on the top of my head that's going to break through those barriers.
Well, our game systems would work, right? You have to, right, Nate? That it like we
yeah,
do.
But
go.
No, I'm just being it's sort of negative again, but I love our game systems, but when you bring them to the higher level clubs or organizations or even after school programs, people want to do what they know, so it gets a little challenging. But I'll let Ross talk about the game system.
Yeah, well, it's like we do a camp in Florida every year to test our game systems, and there's 40 to 50 people of mixed abilities, and we have in that every afternoon we do a soccer game, and I can tell you, Alex, can we see you? Can I see you?
Hi, I'm right here. I don't know if Ariel could pin me, maybe.
It'd be nice to see. Oh, good. I'd rather talk to you. I can't do this. So in that game, it takes a couple days for people. There's an art to doing this, to learning how to play these games in an inclusive way. And there are ways of playing. Like if you're a really good soccer player like Nate, and there's ways of him really playing his hardest and not dominating the game and not being a jerk and stealing the ball from other players who are like my son, maybe walking with a lot of assistance, right? And so if you have committed people and you have a wide variety of abilities and people who aren't wanting to go home and play on a real game, but can find dignity and challenge in this game, then that's how you would do it, I think, but the way it's going right now, it's segregated. So you have top soccer and you have things like that. So you have the focus on people with disabilities only, and then you have people coming in from parents who want their kids to be exposed to people with disabilities, right? And so then you don't necessarily get a good mix, but you get more kids who are kind of in a almost, whether they can help or not, a condescending position of working with other kids with disabilities and looking down on them or treating them the other way. So if you get a broad range of ages and abilities and you put people into this, I think it can work, especially if you find like a core of like 18 or 15 people who want to do this sport, and you start developing a way over a couple of weeks to do it, over a month or something to do it. Does that make any sense? Like, if I haven't worn this out, Nate and I can tell you about the way one of our games works, like our soccer game. We make a requisite that before you go through goals, and before and someone can score twice, maybe 6 out of 8 people on a team have to score. And there are 4 ways of scoring. One is you just kick the ball over the end line, right? The other is you hit like a 5-gallon button. The other is you kick it into a traditional goal, right? And what you do is you at the beginning of the game, you work to include the people who have the hardest time scoring. You try to get them involved towards that end line goal, right? You don't get the best player on the team trying to shoot the single bucket missing and taking that goal away from somebody, if that makes any sense. But so you have your whole team, like at points in the game, working to get someone on your team to score, right? And toward that end, there's people on the other team who are trying to stop you. So you might have Nate, like the best player on our team, trying to help someone else on our team get the ball, and you have the best player in their team trying to stop Nate. And so it kind of balances out that way. Does that make any sense? It's a complicated system, but it's really fun. And we have this in it. We have another way of doing this with basketball. We have 2 different baskets to go to. One is and you can assign a player on your team to shoot at. One is a trash basket, actually, and there's other ways to do it in football as well. So.
Thank you.
Nate, did I do that right, Nate?
Yeah, that sounded good.
I
Much
think
better than my negative spin.
I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. And Mindy, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for speaking to us. I've been volunteering with Top Soccer for a while, but I'd not heard of your program before, so I'm really glad to be able to hear about it. And
we used to do a Top Soccer game in Acton.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's really exciting. I'm in Wilmington, so I do it there. But I was wondering, if people are interested in getting involved in access sports, is there a way that we can get involved? I know some of our members are from like the Massachusetts area, but I know that you're also in other areas. How would you go about getting involved? And also, do you require that your volunteers know how to do the sports that you offer? Because I do not know how to paddleboard or windsurf, but I would love to learn.
I'm sorry, Mindy, no.
I think you can write Ross or I, and Ariel can share our information, emails, phone numbers, Ross's home address is fine by me. But yeah, no, there's no athletic requirements needed. We'll teach you the sports. Ariel certainly learned on the job, and our biggest focus, which I think we sort of glossed over, is engagement and getting to know people and figuring out what makes them tick, or what gets them excited, and then the sports sometimes secondary. So we tend to focus on people, and we're always taking volunteers, and we have internships available as well. So
yeah, the best way to volunteer would have been our Thursday night soccer program in Lexington, and when that comes back on, that would be awesome, right, Nate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That sounds awesome. I'll definitely reach out to you guys after this.
Oh, great.
Cool.
I think we'll defer the last question to Sam.
I don't know what happened. Wait, hold on. Okay, can you see now?
We can only see you.
Oh no.
It's great. It's good.
Okay.
Now
You can see your childhood pictures on the wall there and everything.
Yes. My question is for people. So we're of all different majors. Do you have a suggestion for what people might want to go into if this is something they want to do in their career? What, like if there are certain classes you would recommend or anything like that?
Well, as we said early on, Ross was an economic and divinity major, and I was Spanish and business. So, I think we would just say if you find something that you like to do, and if you get a chance to do it for a living, that's key. If it's in this field, we tend to we put a lot of emphasis on PTs. Not that any other therapy is bad, but we just focus on those physical. That's just where we've ended up. Those physical things, but we see a lot of PTs, OTs. We know a lot of speech therapists, doctors, all of those fields. If you're headed that way, you all getting the word out there about programs like ours are how we're gonna all grow as time goes on. So
the other thing is, I don't know what the makeup is of your Best Buddies chapter, but you could also. You could have us come in and do a session or two. Once Samantha, you're frozen, I think. But I think we'd be happy to do a session or two with your group and some of your folks.
That would be
amazing.
Yeah, especially even now we could do it outside sometime, right?
Sure, that'd be great.
That would be really cool. I think your Best Buddies overseers would like that.
The chat's blowing up. Everyone seems very excited.
Oh, cool. I can see somebody. I can see Mark Wolf. Look at that. Hi, Mark. It's nice to see a face. We're talking to these empty ones. So good for you. How did we do by you, Mark? Was this interesting?
Yeah, I'm not in Best Buddies, but I learned a lot.
Oh, good.
Actually, in the summer, I don't know if you've heard of this, but in the summer, I have sailed with this group in Cape Cod called Sail Cape Cod. It does a lot to accommodate people with disabilities, and it's been really interesting. I got to meet some people with interesting perspectives, and learning about this group was kind of interesting. So thank you.
Do they have good adaptations in the boats?
Yeah, just like the way the seats are made. On a normal sailboat, you would just sit on the edge of the boat, but they're like seats kind of built in. And there are for people with cerebral palsy, for example, they have other assistances when they sail.
It's a cool trick is that $30 racing car seats make the best adaptive seats. and they're really good for sailing. And yeah, we made a couple of trimarans you would have liked with a tiller that sits between people's legs for people to steer. And there's Katie. Hi, Katie. We can see someone named Katie.
Hi, thank you so much. This was really, really interesting. I've paddleboarded once before, so I would love to do this sometime. This is so cool.
Wow. Well, yeah. What are you guys studying? What are you studying?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I'm studying history and Spanish.
Hey,
I
really like Nate. Oh. Ariel, I'm sorry, we've gone too long, right?
No. But I just want to open the floor one more time if there's any last questions.
What do you now have the Best Buddies dance disco party? What happens?
Yeah, we'll just have a post meeting to talk about our next event. But if anyone has any thoughts or comments, love to hear them. Now's the time. But otherwise, Nate and Ross, thank you so much for coming tonight to speak with us and providing your insight about access and about the incredible work that you do. Speaking for the club, I think this was a really great learning opportunity, and I'm glad that I got to. Part of my high school experience was now shown tonight as well. Yeah.
It's good to see you dress up. That's good.
What is your favorite sport that we do, Ariel? Or
I would say stand-up paddleboarding is my favorite.
Okay. After that, on the fly learning experience.
Yeah.
Well, so happy early birthday.
Oh, thank you very much.
Ask him how old he is. Come on.
Not quite 40, so it's all good.
Well, thank you for having us. This has really been fun. Thank you. And I assume too late for this year, but maybe in the fall we could come down and do something on the fields at Tufts or something.
That would be incredible.
Okay.
Thank you guys again.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank
That was a
you.
blast. Nice to
Thank
talk to
you.
you.
Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
night.